guys, welcome back to another episode of our van build series, and today we're going to talk about running wires for all your electrical components in the van. And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of dreading to doing this, mainly because of the fact that it's kind of overwhelming. You have wires all over the place and you cannot forget anything, because once you cover the walls, it's really difficult to run wires inside of a van compared to a house. Okay, so we're gonna start at the front of the van, and you see all these wires hanging here. That's because in here, in the headliner, there's going to be a switchboard that controls most of our lights. So the first switch is gonna be a light bar on the top. The second one is gonna be the driver's side lights on the side. The third one is going to be the passenger side awning lights, and then the rear lights, scene lights that go on the roof rack. And then we're also going to have our WeBoost and Starlink power buttons here. So the reason why we have those here is because if we're driving and we have bad cell phone reception, we don't want to go to the back of the van in order to turn any of those things on. We can just flip a switch as we're in the front, and we're good to go. Most of the wires that we ran in our van that run front to back, we're running them through the corners here, and we are going to have to make a little bit of an angle on the cabinets above, but we figure that's probably a better way to organize the wires. And if you have to work on it later on, all you have to do is pull a cabinet or just a piece of trim. As you're building your van, try to think what you might want in the future. And for example, this is a 120 outlet here that we might have for a microwave. Right now, we have no plans of putting a microwave in this van, but maybe that's something that we're gonna want in the future. So this is going to be inside of a cabinet that you can easily use for a microwave later on. We had the same thing with that 12-volt wire that we're running towards the bathroom, just in case we do want to put a composting toilet later on, the wire is already there. When it comes to running your wires, it's really important that you keep things nice and organized and you don't have wires all over the place, because it's really hard to judge how much distance you need if your wires are sagging down. So these things are awesome. I don't know how permanent they're going to be, but they're going to hold up the wires at least until I have the walls finished. Again, this is another product that I bought on Amazon. You can use a zip tie and zip tie everything together, and that's how you see that all my wires are very well organized. For heavy wires, just lost them. Don't put them super spaced out, just put them closer together. As you can see, I ran most of the wires towards the back of the van and then ran them through here down below. And I did that on purpose. I didn't really want them through this channel because I had to come out somewhere else. I wanted to be in line with my electrical cabinet that is down below here. So I have all of my wires coming into my electrical connection. Down here, that's where you see that spaghetti mess down there that, believe it or not, is actually very well organized. Every wire is marked, and yeah, I think is kind of organized chaos at this point. If you're running any wires on your roof using these ridge lines here, you gotta make sure that you put some sort of protection on the sharp edges of this. This is another thing that has double-sided tape that I purchased on Amazon. Once again, the description is going to be down below. I cut little pieces of that in order to run that wire and use the sticky mounting things for zip ties. So that is how I ran my wire for my Max Air fan, and then all the lights go through here into the corners usually. So we're going to have four light switches for our van. There's going to be bed lights right above here that's going to be turned on from here, and then there's going to be two light switches here, one for the kitchen lights, so it's going to be here, and to here, and then another one for under cabinet lights on the kitchen only, not in the rear of the van. And then there will be a fourth light switch here for our bathroom, which I already have all these wires ran down below here. Another thing that was really helpful to have was wire strippers and a crimping tool for all your 12-volt connections. And I purchased this kit that has all these butt connectors that are heat shrink connectors. So you just put a heat gun on it and it makes a nice seal. And then just as a double thing of protection, I also put a little bit of this heat shrink wrap on top of the connector to cover the whole thing and make everything watertight. That way I'm not having issues later on with anything electrical. I want to show you some of the things that I use for edge protection. I got these on Amazon. They are rubber grommets. They're a bunch of different sizes. and I've used these quite a bit for the inside of the van. Right in here, there's some long holes, and you can just cut this out and then squeeze it together, and it takes the form of a rectangle like that. That helps you to run wires through this area here and not get them damaged. So that's really important. Harbor Freight also sells some, and I have used these little ones for the square holes in here. They fit perfectly in that area. Another thing that we use to protect the wires is this trim lock that we got a little bit extra from our windows. You can put this on any edge like this, and it locks in place, and then you're able to protect that wire. So we did that here. And then also when we ran wires inside of the van through the ridges there, we put that in there too, because it's really hard to protect that with anything else. So in the back of the van, we're going to have USB plugs here and there, and then also we're going to have our water pump power, and then our water level sender for our freshwater tank that is going to be down below. The same thing applies to your gray water tank. You also want to put a level unit on that with a gauge in your kitchen. That way you're able to see that before you get backups. And we are installing an electric valve for dumping our gray water. So the wires for our solar panels are coming in the rear of the van, and it's just a positive and a negative. They come through here, through this back channel here. There's a pretty good back channel here that you could run a lot of wires, as you can see, but there's a limit to it. You don't want to put too many in there that they're getting crushed together. So the other thing that we put in the back of the van is our WeBoost wire antenna, and it goes through here, comes down, and then everything is going to be hooked up in our electrical cabinet. So you might be wondering, what are we doing with the lights that come with the van already? So we took this cover off the passenger side sliding door and hook up the light that goes in here to this, because it has a switch. We rewire that wire the whole way down below, and we are going to reuse this light for our garage light. That way when you open the doors, you will be able to see as soon as you open the doors, and you don't have to actually flip a switch to turn the lights on in the garage. We're also keeping a light by the door, so when you open the side door, you have at least one light as you're coming into the van that is hooked up to the van itself and not the house batteries. To keep things even more organized and more protected, we are going to put wire loom on any wire that is going to be exposed. So not necessarily the ones that go inside of our the ridges of the van, but for example, these right here are going to have wire loom, so when we install the cabinets, nothing gets pinched. So we're using this really thick wire loom. It's 1.25 inches that I purchased on Amazon, and it comes in 25-foot runs, and our van is 24 feet long, so that should be good enough for either side. We are done running all the wires in the van, and we are getting ready to close up the walls. But I am super happy with how this turned out. Everything is very clean and organized, and all the wires are very well protected with wire loom, and anything that is sharp is covered to prevent any kind of damage. And I'm confident that that is going to make a big difference. And yeah, I'm stoked about how this turned out. It looks really good. At the beginning of the project, this was kind of overwhelming. It was a lot of thinking and planning and trying to figure out what wire goes where and what size wire and all that kind of stuff. You're gonna have to do a lot of research when it comes to what you're putting in your van. But I really think that it's important that you take your time. Just take your time doing it. Don't rush this, and make sure you have clean work that is not just a whole bunch of wires everywhere that could potentially get damaged later on and cause you problems. Thank you guys again for watching this video. See you on the next one.